Hi guys, and welcome to another Fantasy Forge video. This time I'm making a pocket door pull because the pulls that are available in this style are not the right size for my pocket doors. Here I'm placing a small piece of brass shim on the inside of the chuck jaws to stop any marking of the aluminum as I put it into the chuck jaws. I'm using a 4-inch diameter piece of soft aluminum to make these pulls. You can see here I've already machined the other half, and that's the main reason I'm putting the brass shim in there, to stop the jaws from marking the already machined half of the pulls. When this is finished, this will actually make two pulls for two different pocket doors. Now I'm just machining the face of the aluminum block, just to make sure it's nice and smooth before I start machining the edges. Here I'm just making sure the diameter is exactly the same as the other side, and then I'll start cutting down or machining down to produce the flanges on each edge. As you'll notice there, you have to stop the machine every time you want to clean the swarf away from the cutting edge, otherwise you could have a really serious accident. That swarf is, even though it's aluminum and it's soft, that swarf could actually take your finger off. So every time you want to clear the swarf away, make sure the machine is turned off. You'll notice there that I just adjusted the tailstock. It sometimes comes loose or works loose over the period of when I'm using it, but I always use a revolving tailstock to secure the piece against the chuck. It's more rigid and it's much safer. This is just a small, not very powerful lathe, so I'm machining just a few thousandths off every time. It takes a long time to do the job, but it's better than stalling the machine. What I'm doing here is producing the flanges on either side of the pulls. It's about 3 or 4 millimeters in depth, and those flanges hide any rough cut that you make through the door. You'll see that in the next video when I show you how I glue these two pulls to the doors. Now here I'm using a flat end bit to make sure that the thickness of each of these flanges is the same. They're about 3 millimeters in thickness and about 3 to 4 millimeters deep, and this flange serves to hide the edge of the cut that you make through the door. It takes quite a time because I'm only able to take off a few thousandths of an inch for every cut. And my doors happen to be 43 millimeters thick, so I'm making sure that the distance between the flange is exactly 43 millimeters. This is where I machine the front face. I do this on both sides identically, measuring consistently to make sure that I don't go too deep. But here I have to go down about 20 millimeters on this side and the other side, and you'll see when it's cut in half it produces two quite nice door pulls. Now here you can see, just with small cuts it produces quite a large amount of swarf. And as I said before, whatever you do, do not try and clear that swarf away while the machine is turning, because it could catch and literally take your finger off. As you can see, this is a long, slow process with this small, not very powerful lathe. If this was a more powerful lathe, you could probably do this whole job in about half an hour. This took me 2 hours, an hour each side to do this, and backwards and forwards a few thousandths at a time. But it's worth it. It looked great in the end. Now here I'm using 220 grit silicon carbide paper, or as we call it in the UK, wet and dry paper, to get a satin finish. Again, it takes a little bit of time, but it's worth the effort. What I do after this is I'll spray it with a clear lacquer to get a satin finish. These door pulls are available on Amazon if you don't want to go to the trouble of making them yourself. They cost about between $40 and $70 each, and they're in stainless steel, which is a much better material to use. I couldn't use stainless steel on this small lathe because it just wouldn't cut it, and if it did cut it, it would take probably a week to do the job. So aluminum was the best bet. As long as I cover it with a good coat of clear lacquer, then it will be fine. The aluminum blocks that I'm using I purchased from eBay. They're 4 inches in diameter, 2 inches thick, and they cost me about 20 bucks each. I purchased 2 blocks. That's enough to do 4 door pulls for the 4 doors that I have. Well, that's about it for this video. I've got the finish I desired on there with the wet and dry paper, and in the next video I'll be showing you how I cut it in half and fit it to the door. Hope you've enjoyed it. Take care and see you in the next video.